a budget to extend those grants. More than 1,500 child care providers in North Carolina responded to this study on child care stabilization grants. 29% of those programs say they expect to close when stabilization grants expire. Singerman says that's 92,000 child slots that would go away statewide.
That will have a major impact on families' access to child care and employers' access to employees.
Meanwhile, 88% say they expect to increase the amount parents have to pay. Here in Mecklenburg County, the average cost for infant care is around $16,000 a year. Survey responses say that if those grants are gone, the cost will increase by almost $2,000.
As pandemic funds end, the question is what will happen to the compensation that our child care workforce receives. It's not tenable for that to revert back to $12 an hour.
The survey also shows more than half of child care providers have already tried to cut costs by reducing the number of staff members and cutting hours. With your Verify Fact Check, I'm Megan Bragg.
Of course, if you have something you want verified, just send us an email at verify@WCNC.com.
And right now, with the rising cost of living, buying a home for many families can seem like a goal that's out of reach. But a Charlotte nonprofit wants to help single mothers cross that finish line. WCNC Charlotte's Kaylin Hagwood shares how Gracious Hands is seeking solutions to the affordable housing crisis and helping moms get ahead.
Gracious Hands is not only helping moms have hope, but also walking alongside them until they finally have a home of their own. That process starts right here at a home in North Charlotte.
So this is our meeting area.
It's been years since Octavia Lindsay first walked these halls in search of a safe place for her and her little girl.
I was in an abusive relationship. Somebody told me about Gracious Hands. When I did come in with my daughter, everybody was so welcoming.
This Gracious Hands location is one of 3, all housing single moms. A passion for the nonprofit's founder, Dr. Sanja Chisholm.
I was a single mom myself, so I would always say, you know, when I hit the lottery, I was going to one day open up a shelter.
That was 9 years ago, and since then, Chisholm says more than 360 women and 1,000 kids have been supported, with the goal of each mom boosting their credit score, saving $5,000, and getting into a new home.
I never grew up where somebody would tell me about finances, home ownership, and she was like, we're gonna get your credit together, and my credit got together, and here I am, a homeowner.
Chisholm says the high cost of living and lack of affordable options are just one barrier for moms. Access to daycare is another.
It's not a one path for each woman.
While the program provides child care, Chisholm hopes to see more funding go toward Gracious Hands and others like it, so that more moms looking for a safe place.
This is where we started at, in this room.
Can cross another barrier, knowing that it's possible.
My mom ready to go home. Just for her to say that makes me feel good because I have a home for her.
Lindsay now works for the program, helping other moms achieve their dreams. Gracious Hands is working to expand and offer more space for moms with teenage boys. If you'd like to donate, you can find out more by searching for this story on our website, WCNC.com. Reporting in North Charlotte, Kaylin Hagwood, WCNC Charlotte.
With your help, WCNC Charlotte is making a difference in our community.
Beautiful day, so many people helping. This is incredible.
Let's spread that love tonight.
Here is a $5,000 check that you guys can use to further the mission.
There is nothing on earth like the feeling of giving back with your hands.
$5,000 to you and Block Love Charlotte for what you guys do.
If you'd like to make a difference, go to WCNC.com/make-a-difference now.
Now to our other headline. A former Anson County boys basketball coach accused of child sex crimes and human trafficking will stay in jail.
A judge today set the bond for Jamozio Birch at $250,000.
That's right. WCNC Charlotte's Kaylin Hagwood has been following this story in Anson County today for us. Well, what we've learned about his alleged crimes.
Jamozio Birch's attorney describes him as a positive figure in the community, but prosecutors say he was inappropriate with at least 2 young people. Did you commit these crimes? Jamozio Birch not responding to questions as he left the Anson County Courthouse Wednesday, his bond set at $250,000. What do you say to the alleged victims? Birch is charged with human trafficking and indecent liberties with children. In an Anson County courtroom closed to cameras, Birch's court-appointed attorney defended him, saying he's a basketball coach and not a danger to the community. But prosecutors said he should remain behind bars, alleging there are at least 2 victims with more possible in other counties.
We want them to come forward with their parents.
The Stanley County Sheriff's Office is among the agencies investigating. The sheriff says their biggest challenge is getting potential victims to tell their stories.
Because whether it could hurt their chances into getting into colleges, professional sports, they don't want that stigma to follow them. If something did happen and we can prove it, then we can get charges and then he can be held accountable.
Birch is expected back in court in April. This is still an active investigation. If you have any details you think can help, contact the Anson or Stanley County Sheriff's offices. Reporting here in Wadesboro, Kaylin Hagwood, WCNC Charlotte.
A lot of people in North Carolina will be looking to win big on sports betting apps. And Kia, we're getting new numbers this morning about just how popular this new trend really is.
That's right. So nearly $200 million in bets were placed in North Carolina's first week of legalized sports wagering. Now we've got a few more numbers to break down all the action for us this morning. The first number we've got for you is 8. That's how many sports betting operators you could place bets through starting on March 11th for the launch. Now, arguably, the timing could not have been better. The first week of betting ended just after those brackets for the men's and women's NCAA tournaments were released. Now, here's the second number. More than $23 million had been wagered just by midnight of the launch. About $12 million of that money were promotional wagers. Those are the incentives for new customers offered by sports betting companies, like betting $5 and then getting $250 to bet with. Now, as for the gamblers taking a chance with their money, well, bettors were paid more than $12 million in winnings in just that first 12 hours, according to the commission. A pretty impressive start in the first day leads us to the much bigger numbers we saw by the end of the week. Nearly $200 million had been wagered, with most in bet winnings already paid. It's important to note, though, the millions of which government is going to be taking taxes out of. So that taxes will take a bite out of about $42 million made. Now, as for North Carolina's early level of winnings, well, gambling leaders say it has to do with NC State and North Carolina doing pretty well in the postseason.
Verify, WCNC Charlotte.
Verify is all about trying to make a difference in the community by making sure that the community has the correct information. This is what we know, and hey, this is what we don't know. Sometimes you're actually surprised by the answer.
Verify the difference.
Verify is a great way to combat that misinformation, making sure that people know the process of the reporting.
If you're ever locked out of your house, who's the first person you're going to call? Probably a locksmith, right? But are all locksmiths created equal? Here's Megan Bragg with this morning's Verify.
This post on Reddit is warning people to double check a locksmith's credentials before booking an appointment. It says in North Carolina, a locksmith must be licensed. So is this true? Do you have to have a license to operate as a locksmith in North Carolina? Let's verify. Our sources are North Carolina law, the North Carolina Locksmith Licensing Board, and Nama Ben Shabbat, owner of AKM Locksmith. According to North Carolina law, a locksmith in North Carolina does have to have the appropriate licensing because locksmiths have the knowledge and tools to bypass or neutralize security devices in vehicles, homes, and businesses. The Tar Heel State requires them to maintain their state license to protect public health, safety, and welfare. And Ben Shabbat agrees.
So in order to have clearance and a trustworthy person to do the work, right? You need to know who they are, what's the background, do they have felonies, misdemeanors. You need to know a little bit more about the person before you let them gain access to your life.
And if you're looking for a locksmith in your area, the North Carolina Locksmith Licensing Board has a public database listing all available licensed locksmiths. The database shows the license number, expiration status, and date, along with any disciplinary actions taken against the locksmith. Now looking at South Carolina, locksmiths in that state do not need a license to operate as a locksmith. However, they do have to register with the Department of Labor Licensing and Regulation. If you're looking for a trustworthy locksmith, there are various locksmith associations like the South Carolina Locksmith Association that can help. And Ben Shabbat says if an unlicensed locksmith tries to travel from South Carolina into North Carolina to ply their trade,
you shouldn't do it, no.
So we can verify that yes, you have to have a license to operate as a locksmith in North Carolina, and there is a state database that shows all of the credentialed locksmiths in your area. A license is not required in South Carolina, but locksmiths do have to register with the Palmetto State. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
If you have something you would like verified, just email us at verify@wcnc.com.
To this, another push to provide mental health resources to Carolina's most vulnerable students. We do thank you for sticking with us this evening for the news at 6. I'm Vanessa Rufus.
And I'm Colin Mayfield. Now, in the aftermath of a deadly school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, Congress dedicated money to help prevent future school violence and improve student mental health. But our Where's the Money investigation found new schools in the Carolinas are actually putting that money to use.
Yeah, not many schools tonight. Nearly 2 months after our Nate Morabito exposed this problem, South Carolina is making a second effort to deliver millions of federal dollars to students who are most at risk.
When we discovered South Carolina had only awarded this money to a dozen school districts, the Department of Education said it would find a way to spend the rest of the money. Well, now, if everything goes as planned, more than twice as many school districts could receive this potentially life-saving money in round 2. In Uvalde, Texas, a gunman murdered 2 teachers and 19 children. Almost 2 years later, millions of dollars in grants sit unused. Funds elected leaders approved to prevent another Robb Elementary School shooting.
It makes no sense to me for these dollars to be offered by the federal government to be sitting in coffers while our schools are not as safe as they can be. We need to do better.
It's a revelation WCNC Charlotte took all the way to the top. First with the Secretary of Education, and then with the Vice President herself.
Well, that's part of why I'm here, to make sure that the money gets to where it needs to be going.
These so-called Stronger Connections grants are meant to help school districts with high rates of poverty, bullying, absenteeism, and exclusionary discipline.
Sometimes I just think I'm not sure how some of these children kind of survive their life.
But York School District 1 is the only school system in the Charlotte area that's received a grant so far. The district is using the money to ensure every school has its own mental health therapist.
My mission is to help these children who are struggling so much.
South Carolina is hoping others will take notice of York's efforts.
If you are eligible, please apply.
The Department of Education opened a second round of applications this month. Records show more than 50 South Carolina districts are eligible, and they have 2 months to submit their applications.
We just want to make sure that this gets out there and we don't have to send any of it back.
While South Carolina is moving on to round 2, North Carolina has still not spent a single cent of this money. You can blame that on bureaucracy and delays in communication. Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
Now to go further here, we asked some of the districts that did not apply in round 1. Why not? The Lancaster County School District told us the timing was not good back then, but assured us if there was a second round, it would apply. So we alerted those district leaders earlier today that this opportunity is available to them.
And so as you can see, Nate and our Where's the Money team are very hard at work. They are tracking those federal dollars. They're keeping receipts here. They're checking those. They're holding those in power accountable, really all in an effort to give you answers. So that being said, if you have something out there you think our team should be looking into, please let us know. You can send us an email to money@wcnc.com or reach out to our team on social media. Now let's get to that forecast. Of course, we are weather aware here, and I always hate when we get the threat risk overnight when folks might be sleeping.
Yeah, it's always tough because if you don't have that phone turned on and you don't have it unmuted, you're not going to wake up to those warnings. And you got to think now, because when you get those warnings, remember, you're going to be sound asleep, and what are you going to do? So sometimes put the shoes next to the bed, the flashlight, kind of have that helmet, or maybe have that area you're going to go just in case we do get a warning. Tonight, it is beautiful right now. It is super warm. I mean, it's early April, right? But it feels like it might be June or July out there with temperatures in the 70s still. But we want you to stay weather aware, especially right during the morning hours, right before sunrise. Those strong storms, 3 a.m. to about, I'd say 9 a.m., the strong line. The main threats, damaging straight line winds. Isolated tornado risk, though I'll tell you the tornado risk is definitely trending down a little bit, but the wind threat might be trending up just a hair. It's going to stay windy. Here's the thing, too. Even if you don't see a thunderstorm that's severe tomorrow, the winds are going to be gusty all day. This is a strong front. The temperature is going to plunge, and cold air is going to be rushing into the region over the next 24 to 36 hours, so it will be quite chilly. So the storms we're watching aren't to our west, they're actually to our southwest. So the ones down near Atlanta, those are the ones that are traveling up 85 and will be here in the morning hours. So here's the latest futurecast. Southwest winds, it's really warm out there. We'll go through the overnight hours going past midnight now. And by 2 a.m., we start to see some showers showing up, but the main action really starts to move in around 3 or 4. These are the storms. Notice them right here. Not many coming in from the west. They're down here over the upstate. They start traveling up, and look at that big surge of moisture by 4 a.m. And then look at that line. It's starting to look like it's going to be more of what we call bow echo. Looks like a bow and arrow. If I were to take a bow like that and arch it out, the arrow would be pointing that direction. That would be strong straight line winds. So this is an indication of pretty strong winds, and you can see it starting to line up here east of Charlotte by 6 a.m. Excuse me, pushing off to the east fairly quickly. And you can see that bow segment kind of getting more enhanced there. So that's a very strong indication of strong straight line winds. The main front is right here. It doesn't arrive until the middle of the day. Might kick off a stray shower north, but once it pushes through, strong westerly winds all day long. So the tornado parameter actually is trended down a little bit. That's why I think the tornado threat overall is a little bit more diminished. Now, later in the morning, it starts to go back up to the east, and that's an area in eastern North Carolina which might have a more of a tornado risk during the day tomorrow. So the timing kind of breaks down like this. Between about 3 a.m. and 9 a.m., that would be our main threat for high winds. If there is going to be a tornado, it would be in that same time frame. So remember, overnight, if we get a watch means the ingredients are there for something to happen. It's over a several hour period. If we get a warning, that means the ingredients have come together and we've got a tornado or a severe thunderstorm warning. I like using cupcakes here to kind of give you that illustration, but that's what they mean. The watch is over several hours. And remember, good time to download our WCNC app right now. Scan that QR code with your phone. You can get push notifications on your phone. And also, if there are warnings, we'll be streaming on there and you can watch us live on your phone. So once the front pushes through tomorrow, it gets chilly. Gusty winds throughout the day, blowing in. And look at this. There's actually going to be snow in the North Carolina mountains by tomorrow night into Thursday. We'll actually see a frost or freeze potential likely Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning. But the winds, they'll be a story throughout the day tomorrow. This is even outside of the thunderstorms. So strong winds throughout the day and the evening hours. And even into Thursday, it'll be a breezy day. So these will be chilly winds over the next few days. So once the front moves through, don't be surprised if you still see some wind blowing some branches around or some of that lawn furniture. So make sure you secure that and keep it that way for the next several days. Your Guy Roofing 7-day forecast. Once the storms move out tomorrow, things get calmer. Temperatures in the 50s and 60s, but check out that chill. By Saturday and Sunday morning, we're likely going to see patchy frost. But next week, we start to warm right back up. And we'll be back near 80, if not the upper 70s for most of next week.
All right.
WCNC Charlotte.
Weather is a kind of science that you get to see and experience every day. And I think some people don't even realize how much it affects them. That weather has a huge impact on how it threatens your family, your livelihood, or your home. So I think it really is one of those defining things we do that really affects everybody in our community.
See the difference.
That process of giving you a warning ahead of time and keeping you and your family safe is really important to me because I live here too. It's my family, it's my friends, it's my neighbors.
We're out in Uptown today enjoying day 2 of Charlotte Shout. This year's location is at First Ward Park. The festival is an opportunity for local bands, artists, and businesses to put their talents on display. WCNC Charlotte's Anna King spoke to some of those businesses who say sales are already through the roof, enough that it has her asking, where's the money?
Live music, local art, and good food. This year's Charlotte Shout brings something for everyone, especially small local businesses.
I say we're up about 50%, 75%. That's what I would say, compared to last year.
This gives me at least a 35 to 40% boost in my bottom line every year.
This year's festival is being held at the First Ward Park in Uptown, which businesses say provides the perfect opportunity to bring in new customers.
Thank you. One of the biggest festivals I do every year.
And right across the street from the park is the 7th Street Market, consisting of new businesses trying to get off the ground.
Astronomically busy. When I say we got ticket lines down to the floor, I mean at 6 o'clock we're just getting through, but we're pushing.
And businesses like Gino D's Pizza say the profit from this event every year isn't comparable.
I know yesterday we hit record sales. Already today, We've served over 367 customers.
They say just to prep, they had to order in more dough,
Maxed out on dough.
and bring in more staff. Leaders of the event say just based on these first few days, the numbers this year will far surpass last year.
What we saw last year is that for every dollar spent, it put $6 more of money back into the economy.
Which means more money for businesses and in turn, more money towards the city. In Uptown Charlotte, Anna King, WCNC Charlotte.
A war veteran in Wadesboro is celebrating a century. Born in 1924, this man who fought in World War II has seen the world change several times over. Our Larry Sprinkle sat down with him as the vet adds his 100th candle to the cake.
There's a quaint little town about an hour and 45 minutes east of Charlotte.
Mount Gilead, North Carolina, home of one really special man. His name is Bob Loudermilk, a veteran of World War II. That's why this mural is here. And Bob celebrating 100 years old.
Robert Steele Bob Loudermilk was born at home in Mount Gilead and lives today in that same house. At the age of 17, after graduating from the local high school, he was off to college at NC State.
And I was actually studying that Sunday afternoon, December the 7th.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
And I was drafted in early 43, February 43.
After finishing flight school and then pilot training, his war duties began in the Pacific Theater. A first lieutenant at 19, Bob describes flying the P-38.
You were the gunner, the bomber, navigator.
He served his country through the end of the war and the occupation of Japan.
Well, escorting these Japanese Betty bombers for the surrender was one of the most vivid, I think.
From a total of 16 million who served, Bob Loudermilk is just one of 119,000 still alive to tell their story.
Well, I've had a good life, and I really don't feel any different, really. I've been fortunate throughout my life.
On March 28th, there was a big celebration at the First United Methodist Church in Mount Gilead. Friends and family, a son and daughter, 3 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild were all there to honor him.
Happy birthday to you.
It's an ongoing celebration for a man who's lived one amazing life. World War II veteran Bob Loudermilk, happy 100th birthday. In Mount Gilead, North Carolina, Larry Sprinkle, back to you.
Yes, happy birthday from all of us. What an incredible milestone. For you folks at home, if we have any history buffs out there, we did want to invite you to this. You can watch tonight on our streaming platform, WCNC Plus, as we stream this, our World War II documentary. It's called When the War Came to America. It shows when German U-boat wolf packs, as they were called, began hunting off the United States East Coast, targeting merchant ships and U.S. naval escorts. You can learn about this lesser-known historical moment at 8 p.m. In, of course, WCNC Plus. You can get on your preferred streaming device by scanning this QR code right now.
WCNC Charlotte.
Good morning, Carolinas.
Tune in to the team that's preparing you for your day.
The one and only Larry Sprinkle.
See the difference in your morning.
It is bitter cold just about anywhere you look.
Here's a look right here at I-77 northbound.
Trying to make your dollar stretch a little bit further.
Responsible reporting, community-focused, unique content.
It's so good to see you.
Oh, y'all are having too much fun.
See the difference. Weekday mornings on WCNC Charlotte.
Thanks. New this morning, Charlotte city leaders are working to address the alarming rise in youth crime. New data shows us that 15 to 17-year-olds make up about 4% of Charlotte's population. However, they account for about 10% of all arrests. It's why WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane joins us now from the Government Center. Richard, leaders say we just need to focus on our kids.
That's absolutely correct. They say that is very important, Kia. Good morning to you. A good Tuesday morning all. And they say they need a plan that they can put into action that will help reduce youth crime they say, over the next half decade. Now, they had this meeting yesterday, and they basically talked about a number of things. This was the group that was tasked with addressing ways to help reduce youth crime in Charlotte. They released some of their findings. The City Council's Housing, Safety, and Community Committee held its April meeting and discussed some of the evidence-based programs that have shown potentials in other cities. They also looked at programs like the ATV, Alternatives to Violence program. They looked at its progress. Research shows that there are several factors that help create youth crime, including access to resources, exposure to trauma, and lack of support for and from families and neighborhoods. Final recommendations should be released sometime next month.
We all recognize there's a sense of urgency around the recommendations, but I think the first week of May is the soonest that we can get there. And while the manager's recommended budget obviously will be out on May 6th, that wouldn't preclude us from entertaining some opportunities in fiscal year 25. We may just have to get creative as we're looking at available funding sources that we could have at our disposal.
And all of the city leaders were also saying, city council members saying, it's urgent and it's important that we address this issue and that we also have funding when we ask for these programs. We're right here in Charlotte. Richard Devane, send it back to you.
Time now to connect the dots. When we make the news make sense, artificial intelligence is growing at an unprecedented rate. And a small mining town right here in North Carolina is fueling a lot of it.
Some of the most critical minerals needed to make computer chips are mined right here in our own backyard. Let's connect the dots. Ultra-high purity quartz is an essential component to the chips that are powering the AI revolution. Right now, 2 mines in the small town of Spruce Pine, about 2 hours northwest of Charlotte, are the only places on the planet you can get this high-quality mineral. The owner of the mine, Sibelco, just invested $700 million to expand its capacity and keep up with the major demand. Still, experts are nervous about whether or not it'll be able to keep pace. That's because experts believe if these mines stopped operating, it would lead to a, quote, catastrophic disruption in the world economy that could set the world back decades. And that is connecting the dots.
Wake up to the news that matters most with meteorologist and traffic reporter Chris Mulcahy.
And we're all clear. We're keeping you smarter, safer, and on time.
Start your day the Mulcahy way. See the difference. 4:30 to 7 on WCNC Charlotte.
Well, people across the nation are getting ready for the total solar eclipse on April 8th. Here in the Carolinas, we can expect just a partial eclipse, but experts say it's still important to have those special glasses. So if you still have a pair from 2017's spectacle, will those still work? Our Megan Bragg verifies.
We got an email from viewer Sissy R who asked, can 2017 eclipse glasses be used during the April eclipse? So we took her question straight to the experts. Let's verify. Our sources are Gina DiBraccio with NASA and the American Astronomical Society. When comparing the 2017 solar eclipse with this year's, DiBraccio says there are a few differences, the path being the most important.
The path is different, but the width of the path of totality is also a little bit wider than it was in 2017.
And for those in the path of totality, DiBraccio says the total eclipse will last a little bit longer than it did back in 2017.
So the moon is actually going to be traveling just a little bit slower because of where it is in its orbit, and that's going to extend the length of totality to about 4.5 minutes.
And if you remember watching the eclipse 7 years ago, you might have an old pair of eclipse glasses in your desk drawer, but are they safe to use?
If you see any obvious kind of like scratches or holes in them, then you definitely do not want to use them. But if they're not damaged, you can use them.
The American Astronomical Society says before using any eclipse glasses, make sure you check the sides to ensure they say ISO 12312-2 standard. Experts say any legitimate eclipse glasses made after 2015 should be ISO certified and safe to use when viewing the eclipse in a few weeks. So we can verify that yes, you can use old eclipse glasses as long as they are ISO
ISO 12312-2 standard, certified, and are in the perfect condition, meaning there are no scratches or holes in the lenses. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
If you have something you would like verified, just email us at verify@wcnc.com.
And
I will never take things for granted like this again.
They spent years paying too much in property taxes without even knowing it, all because the tax office drastically overestimated the square footage of their home.
This looks like you all made a mistake.
Even worse, the retired couple can't get any of that money back. Tonight, they want to protect you. If you've never looked at your property record card, let us tell you, you'll want to do that, and soon. Tonight, Nate Morabito and our Where's the Money team is showing you why.
This is different than the vague revaluation notices you get in the mail every few years. Instead, it's on you to search for the detailed property record card on your county assessor's website. That's the only way to ensure the estimate on file has accurate measurements of your home.
Oh, my.
Inside Jan Keel's newest Concord home.
This is so many years ago.
The former educator continues teaching.
This was 1974 or 75.
Even in retirement.
It has been something that has really gnawed at me.
Keel and her husband, also a retired public servant, first moved to Cabarrus County from Wilmington in 2011.
We noticed that Cabarrus has better tax rates than Mecklenburg.
Drawn here in part by its affordability, specifically to this house, a new build, a place they'd call home for almost a decade.
It was kind of the ultimate house for us.
But then came a series of medical challenges for Tom.
We have some dementia,
which forced them to downsize in hopes of saving their money for eventual long-term care.
It was devastating.
That's when the husband and wife, on a fixed income, learned they should have even more cash in the bank.
The measurement was wrong for 9 years.
Keel says when they put that house on the market in 2020, an appraiser measured it as part of the selling process. And the appraiser found the actual size of the house is more than 300 square feet less than what the county assessor's office had on record. The result of mislabeling a vaulted ceiling as actual living space.
I was really, really surprised.
Keel says she paid her taxes every year through escrow.
Why would I question that?
And it never dawned on her to double-check the county's math. It hasn't just cost her money. She's lost sleep.
I do wake up at night and I think about it.
Square footage is a big factor in determining the value of a home.
We have information now that showed that our estimate was incorrect at that time.
So a mistake.
A difference in appraisal.
Regardless what tax administrator David Thrift calls it.
This looks like you all made a mistake. You don't think this was a mistake?
My answer to that was we made an incorrect estimation.
Once alerted, he says Cabarrus County quickly corrected the information on the property record card. Thrift says his office's goal is to get the most accurate measurement possible for every property in Cabarrus County. That process starts when a home is under construction, and appraisers can get inside and physically measure.
Once it's complete, we do a final inspection.
When they don't have access, Thrift says county employees do their best to estimate. But of course, an estimate, by definition, is an approximate calculation.
When we identify something that we misestimated in this case, that certainly it's not something we like to hear.
Uncommon, but not unheard of. That's why he wants to educate people too. Thrift says if you look at your property record card and think any of the details are wrong, you don't need to hire an appraiser. His office is more than happy to come back out and remeasure. He also says if you want your eventual bill to reflect an accurate tax amount, you need to report discrepancies now, during the revaluation appeal window, before the Board of Equalization and Review meets in mid-April, which means in Keel's case,
there's no recourse there.
The former teacher turned student.
I feel a little bit like I bear some responsibility.
Learned a valuable lesson way too late. but not too late to teach the rest of us.
I will never take things for granted like this again.
State law really limits your ability to recoup property tax payments from prior years. You either have to prove that it was an illegal tax to begin with or the result of a clerical error. Not an error in judgment, not an incorrect estimation, not a mistake. Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
So we say this often, we can't do what we do without you. We get that story, of course, because the Keel family reached out to us about it.
Yeah, as Nate said, the Keels wanted to make sure that you don't make the same mistake. And it does go to show you that your tips and your story ideas can lead to real answers and solutions, and they can really help others get ahead as well. If you have something our Where's the Money team should look into, please let us know. You can do that by sending an email to money@WCNC.com or reaching out on social media.
When it comes to WCNC's chief meteorologist Brad Panovich, our viewers tell the whole story.
Hey, if you're new to the area, this meteorologist is awesome.
I always stick with Brad Panovich when it comes to severe weather. He's rarely wrong.
You should follow Brad if you don't already. He's usually right on the money with his forecast.
I don't look at anything else besides what Brad says. We are fortunate to have him here.
Brad Panovich, experience the difference with WCNC Charlotte Weather.
The way many of us view and even talk about sports is changing now that sports betting in North Carolina is up and running. And those conversations, they're happening everywhere, including the barbershop. TVs and the sounds of clippers are the only sounds making waves inside Bennett's barbershop in North Charlotte.
Where no matter where you come from, no matter what you do, sports is a universal language that all guys can talk about.
That Kyrie plays. Sports talk, still a big topic, but with a new look, an added layer of sports betting.
Brings more conversation because now you get to know who likes who. I mean, you see we got football teams all over the wall, stuff like that.
It's more than just Bennett's that's banking on a winner. According to the North Carolina State Lottery Commission, through the first week, more than $198 million have been wagered, with more than $140 million paid out to winners.
Betting has made it into people who are only marginally invested in sports are now taking interest in.
But a lot of bettors just took a hit. According to BetMGM, in the first 24 hours since the launch, nearly 48% of bets on March Madness were banking on the Tar Heels to win it all. So, who are fans betting on now in March Madness?
Still got North Carolina State left. Got a lot of Duke fans, all of them in the same area. Got some Clemson fans. People are excited about Clemson because that's something different. But
maybe not the first option, but still a good choice to help fans bring home the bacon.
That's just a way of getting people excited, but you can see just naturally how much money it's generating.
In North Charlotte, Miles Harris, WCNC Charlotte.
When did you know what you wanted to be?
Hey Mom, the weather's on!
WCNC Charlotte's chief meteorologist, Brad Panovich, always knew what he was meant to do.
All right, don't forget your umbrella.
In fact, he joined the American Meteorological Society when he was 13. Now Brad is all grown up. You can see him right here on WCNC Charlotte, making sure you're informed and safe.
Hey, where did all my hair go?
Experience the difference.
Now let's get to that forecast. Of course, we are weather aware here. And I always hate when we get the threat risk overnight when folks might be sleeping.
Yeah, it's always tough because if you don't have that phone turned on and you don't have it unmuted, you're not going to wake up to those warnings. And you got to think now, because when you get those warnings, remember, you're going to be sound asleep, and what are you going to do? So sometimes put the shoes next to the bed, the flashlight, kind of have that helmet, or maybe have that area you're going to go just in case we do get a warning. Tonight, it is beautiful right now. It is super warm. I mean, it's early April, right? But it feels like it might be June or July out there with temperatures in the 70s still. But we want you to stay weather aware, especially right during the morning hours, right before sunrise. Those strong storms, 3 a.m. to about, I'd say 9 a.m., the strong line. The main threats, damaging straight line winds. Isolated tornado risk, though I'll tell you the tornado risk is definitely trending down a little bit, but the wind threat might be trending up just a hair. It's going to stay windy. Here's the thing, too. Even if you don't see a thunderstorm that's severe tomorrow, the winds are going to be gusty all day. This is a strong front. The temperature is going to plunge, and cold air is going to be rushing into the region over the next 24 to 36 hours, so it will be quite chilly. So the storms we're watching aren't to our west. They're actually to our southwest. So the ones down near Atlanta, those are the ones that are traveling up 85 and will be here in the morning hours. So here's the latest futurecast. Southwest winds. It's really warm out there. We'll go through the overnight hours, going past midnight now. And by 2 a.m., we start to see some showers showing up, but the main action really starts to move in around 3 or 4. These are the storms. Notice them right here. Not many coming in from the west. They're down here over the upstate. They start traveling up, and look at that big surge of moisture by 4 a.m. And then look at that line. It's starting to look like it's going to be more of what we call bow echo. Looks like a bow and arrow. If I were to take a bow like that and arch it out, the arrow would be pointing that direction. That would be strong straight line winds. So this is an indication of pretty strong winds, and you can see it starting to line up here east of Charlotte by 6 a.m. Excuse me, pushing off to the east fairly quickly. And you can see that bow segment kind of getting more enhanced there. So that's a very strong indication of strong straight line winds. The main front is right here. It doesn't arrive until the middle of the day. Might kick off a stray shower north, but once it pushes through, strong westerly winds all day long. So the tornado parameter actually trended down a little bit. That's why I think the tornado threat overall is a little bit more diminished. Now, later in the morning, it starts to go back up to the east, and that's an area in eastern North Carolina which might have a more of a tornado risk during the day tomorrow. So the timing kind of breaks down like this. Between about 3 a.m. and 9 a.m., that would be our main threat for high winds. If there is going to be a tornado, it would be in that same time frame. So remember, overnight, if we get a watch means the ingredients are there for something to happen. It's over a several hour period. If we get a warning, that means the ingredients have come together and we've got a tornado or a severe thunderstorm warning. I like using cupcakes here to kind of give you that illustration, but that's what they mean. The watch is over several hours. And remember, good time to download our WCNC app right now. Scan that QR code with your phone. You can get push notifications on your phone. And also, if there are warnings, we'll be streaming on there and you can watch us live on your phone. So once the front pushes through tomorrow, it gets chilly. Gusty winds throughout the day, blowing in. And look at this. There's actually going to be snow in the North Carolina mountains by tomorrow night into Thursday. We'll actually see a frost or freeze potential likely Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning. But the winds, they'll be a story throughout the day tomorrow. This is even outside of the thunderstorms. So strong winds throughout the day and the evening hours. And even into Thursday, it'll be a breezy day. So these will be chilly winds over the next few days. So once the front moves through, don't be surprised if you still see some wind blowing some branches around or some of that lawn furniture. So make sure you secure that and keep it that way for the next several days. Your Guy Roofing 7-day forecast. Once the storms move out tomorrow, things get calmer. Temperatures in the 50s and 60s, but check out that chill. By Saturday and Sunday morning, we're likely going to see patchy frost. But next week, we start to warm right back up. And we'll be back near 80, if not the upper 70s for most of next week.
All right.
For more than a month, demonstrators making their presence known outside of a church in Monroe, following a pastor's comments about sexual assault during a sermon. This morning, people stood outside of Bible Baptist once again to voice their discomfort behind the comments, as well as push for answers behind tax dollars going to the school connected with the church. WCNC Charlotte's Miles Harris was there and shares why the community is still so vocal on this issue.
Every Sunday for weeks now, community members throughout Monroe have stood outside Bible Baptist Tabernacle and stressed their concerns following some controversial comments that were made by the pastor here. And those concerns were stressed even on Easter Sunday.
We understand the importance of Easter Sunday, and we don't want to give up and just go home just because it's a special holiday.
Easter service at Bible Baptist Tabernacle was joined by community members pushing for accountability from the church.
Where's the accountability? That's what we're looking for, is accountability. We want people in power to give a crap about this. We want some reaction.
Emotions remain high after Pastor Bobby Leonard said during a sermon that women make themselves targets for sexual assault based on how they dress, stating that he wouldn't vote to convict a man who's accused of raping a woman if she wore shorts.
We want to make sure that he knows it's not acceptable to say these things from the pulpit.
The church and Pastor Leonard, they did apologize with a sign outside a few weeks ago saying, "I am sorry for any hurt. I was wrong." More questions are being raised after community members learned the school connected with the church, Tabernacle Christian School, has received over $900,000 in both 2023 and 2024 in public taxpayer funds through a state voucher program.
They're taking money away from children in our community that really need it, the people who, are impoverished and don't have the resources.
A program that North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper questions.
And the private schools that get this taxpayer money don't even have to tell taxpayers how they're spending it. Investigations into vouchers show a troubling reality.
It was heartening to hear that Governor Cooper has called some attention to this.
Community members throughout Union County are calling for action and prepared to keep light on the issue until something is done.
We want to show everyone that we're serious about our commitment to getting accountability from Pastor Leonard.
In Monroe, Miles Harris, WCNC Charlotte.
Time now to connect the dots. When we make the news make sense. Inflation's raised prices of just about everything, but one of the biggest discount stores in the country is having the same struggles as everybody else. Sarah French explains.
You would think dollar stores would be booming right now, but that's not the case. Let's connect the dots. Dollar Tree is getting ready to close 970 unprofitable stores. Consumer Affairs reports it comes after a rough month for the retailer. Net sales decreased by more than 3%. Experts say the reason could be in the products. Shoppers are trying to save up for essentials like food. They're skipping popular dollar store items like balloons, greeting cards, and craft supplies. For dollar stores, that's bad news. They're not appealing to loyal customers, and they're facing raising costs themselves, and it's leading to a decrease in quality. Consumer Affairs say folks are noticing staffing shortages and poor store management, which is leading to a decline in overall appeal. And that's connecting the dots.
WCNC Charlotte.
Good morning, Carolinas.
Tune in to the team that's preparing you for your day.
We are following two major breaking news stories this morning.
See the difference in your morning.
We can see clear skies out there off in the distance.
Everything is flowing just fine.
We're asking where's the money so you can get ahead in 2024.
Responsible reporting, community-focused, unique content.
Good morning, Savannah. Hi, Sarah. Great to see you.
See the difference. Weekday mornings on WCNC Charlotte.
A recent report from Consumer Affairs shows that for the average family, the cost of living has risen 4% in the last 12 months. This is because many essential things you have to pay for have gone up more than you think. And in a time where everyone's asking where's the money, we're showing you a breakdown of some of these expenses. A recent report from Doxo, it's a third-party billing site, found the average U.S. household spent over $25,000 a year on their mortgage and essential household bills. If we break down some of them, Doxo found the average monthly mortgage in North Carolina over $1,300 and South Carolina a bit cheaper at just over $1,200. Looking at how much North Carolinians are spending on monthly utilities. Well, you spend about $291 in North Carolina. South Carolina, here it is slightly higher at $323. Finally, let's look at alarms and security. South Carolina pays higher at about $97 every month on home security. North Carolinians pay a monthly payment of average about $88. But Vanessa, I mean, it really just goes to show you how much we spend on essentials. You really can't get rid of some of these bills, you know. That's why people are trying to cut the cable and deal with some lesser cellular plans.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I know you just noted the notable ones, and so that plus all of the other things.
Right, and then
really
stop spending less on our luxury items.
Yeah. All right, Jane, thanks for breaking down those numbers. Hey, folks, in the next half.
Now we're talking about what's trending after a pretty interesting discovery. Good morning and happy Wednesday. Now, a decades-old rumor just might be true at the historic North Wilkesboro Speedway. Now, Speedway Motorsports says a possible moonshine cave was found below the grandstands last week. Crews discovered it during an inspection. Now, it still has not been found yet, but officials at the Speedway say the 700-square-foot space would have been the perfect location not only to make illegal liquor, but to hide from the law as well. So we've got some fun facts about the track here. North Wilkesboro Speedway opened back in 1947, and it actually became one of NASCAR's original tracks that decade. The NASCAR raced at North Wilkesboro until 1996 before a huge renovation project returning NASCAR to the track in 2023. Now, the cave found inside, again, is around 700 square feet. And those rumors we talked about, well, track officials say there's been word of this cave circulating at least for some decades. And northwestern North Carolina was no stranger to moonshine in the 20th century. The underground industry flourished in places like Wilkes County back in the 1930s and 40s. And many of the so-called moonshine runners took their talents to the racetrack. Some very interesting history here, guys. I couldn't imagine these crews in their face when they saw this cave.
One of the greatest racers of all time, Junior Johnson, from right there in Wilkes County, well known for, you know, a little brew. In fact, you know, Junior passed away a number of years ago, but it's at one point along the way, his moonshine became legal under his name. But one of the legends of NASCAR, Junior Johnson, right there in Wilkes County, and so, you know, probably a lot of truth in that.
This could be a movie.
I was literally just thinking that.
When I think about the community, I think about the time that I've been here. I've been in this community almost my entire adult life, so you know, you get to know the people. When you know what they care about, then that's what you care about. This community looks at all of us who do weather here at WCNC Charlotte as part of their family. And when you're part of their family, you want to make sure you do it just for them.
Welcome back. Time now 5:15. We're getting new details this morning about the cargo ship that destroyed a bridge in Baltimore. We now know crews have recovered 2 bodies of workers who were on the bridge when it was hit. For now, they're pausing their efforts to find the other 4 who are missing as they wait for salvage operations to clear the debris. U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg says rebuilding the bridge and reopening the port will not be quick or easy. And experts say we could be seeing impacts on shipping worldwide as long as it stays closed.
The Port of Baltimore is one of the busiest ports on the East Coast, and shipping traffic could be disrupted for weeks, if not longer. Let's connect the dots. These disruptions are expected to be bad for a lot of industries, but experts predict coal and automakers will be hit the hardest. Last year, almost 900,000 vehicles were brought through that port. To put that number in perspective, there's only 2 million new cars sitting in dealer lots right now. This means we could see inventories of popular car models run low. While port executives across the East Coast say they have the capacity to absorb the traffic headed to Baltimore, many of them don't have the right tools to move those vehicles to dealerships quickly. And that is connecting the dots.
Starting Monday, North Carolina will no longer cover weight loss medication for its 700,000 state employees. Now those using medication like Ozempic will have to pay out of pocket or stop taking it altogether. It's a drug that can cost people about $1,000 a month if it's not covered by insurance. WCNC Charlotte's Anna King spoke to health officials about how this could affect patients who depend on it.
Well, health officials told me this change will be detrimental to those patients who have to stop completely. They say this change will take a toll on their bodies.
Starting April 1st, those using their North Carolina state health insurance to pay for weight loss medication are going to have to stop or pay out of pocket. Weight loss medication cost the state more than $100 million in 2023, and now the state will no longer cover those needs.
You're not going to be able to remove one of the medications and still do the same diet and exercise and have the success. All the medications have been shown to help patients lose more weight than they would by diet and exercise alone.
Dr. Thomas Marlowe with Marlowe's Weight Loss Clinic says this will only have a negative impact on those patients' health.
I mean, there's no doubt about that. Absolutely. That would happen with any. If you took away people's blood pressure pills, took away people's asthma medication, they're going to suffer.
This change will affect around 25,000 people who are covered under the state health plan. According to America's Health Rankings, as of 2022, 34% of adults in North Carolina were considered obese, a problem doctors say will only get worse without medical help.
If you remove the obesity medications, chronic medical condition exacerbates, and you have the high rates of cancer, heart attacks, blood clots, strokes, so forth.
He says anyone concerned should speak to their healthcare provider about what options they may have. In Charlotte, Anna King, WCNC Charlotte.
Hey YouTube, this is Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here at WCNC Charlotte. We want you to head over to our Weather IQ YouTube page, where we're making you smarter and safer. We have a passion for weather science, and we want you to understand what's happening when the weather changes, because in the end, that's what keeps you safe. It's not about being scared, it's about being informed. Browse our collection of fun and informative clips and look for new segments every week. We're here to raise your weather IQ. Experience the difference on WCNC Charlotte.
Good morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy. The time that we're recording this is 3:51 here on your Wednesday morning. Currently, we only have one tornado watch for one of our counties. That is Chester County, and this could be extended a little bit further off towards the north and east, but right now this goes until 8 a.m., but likely the activity that's going to be triggering this will happen much, much earlier. Meanwhile, we're looking at anywhere from a light rain shower to a moderate rainfall around the Charlotte area, much heavier down towards the south, but really we're directing our attention right here. This is where we're seeing most of the activity. Currently, 2 active tornado warnings, 1 observed down towards the south, right near Macon, Georgia. This one is radar indicated, but these bands are the ones that are going to be affecting our viewing area in the northern part of South Carolina. This orange box right here, whenever it's orange, a severe thunderstorm warning means a tornado is possible. When it's yellow, it's a general severe thunderstorm warning. So it's right here around Washington, Georgia. This will be pushing its way off towards the north and east. I would say really at a clip of anywhere from 40 to 45 miles per hour is really starting to intensify. The rotation that was associated with this is starting to broaden out, which is good news. It's a lot tighter, so likely this is going to be expiring here soon. But this is a broad system that had one little decaying tail. This little area right here was working its way into Chester County, but really died out. The good news for the Charlotte area, this rain is stabilizing the atmosphere, but it's right down here that we are also looking at much higher dew points, which is a better storm fuel and energy. So the central parts of South Carolina certainly going to be dealing with a decent storm system, but you can see the general track of all this energy. That is going to include Chester County, Lancaster County, up into Union, and also over into Anson, and we can include Richmond County there as well. Here's our rotation and our tornado parameter. Whenever there's a number that pops up here, there's some sort of rotation. It's going to catch our attention. Whenever you have a streak like this, that is a low to moderate rotation streak. So that is showing right around 6 o'clock. That's where we're going to have a higher potential that maybe a tornado warning could be popping up here in Chester, and even York County is going to be on that threshold. So even though it's only Chester County that's under the tornado watch, we still have the ingredients that will be present within a 25-mile radius. So that's why I would say Lancaster County, Union County, and York County especially need to be watchful of this line, because notice that that streak is going to streak its way off towards the north and east. The one thing that's in our corner is the time of day. If this was happening during the middle of the afternoon, this could be a much more serious situation. So here's our future cast. This is 5 o'clock, looking at some spotty showers and thunderstorms for the Charlotte area off towards the north up to the I-40 corridor. It's right in here. That's the main energy that we're looking at with the most wind shear, the most twist of the atmosphere. That brings us to 5:30 to around 6 o'clock. So 5 to 6 o'clock, that's where I think it's going to be a little bit more tumultuous in the southern part of the 485 loop, right around Monroe, up to Albemarle. We'll see this as well. But by 7 o'clock, this thing is picking up some speed. I think it's going to be out of here before you know it. And there's the slightest chance that we could have a second coming of rain to end the morning. That's going to be along the cold front itself. So here is the big scope of everything. For one, you have a low that is filtering some big time snow in Wisconsin, the northern part of Illinois over to Indiana. Meanwhile, Indiana also in the southern part of the state had tornado warnings to start yesterday morning. Once this front clears, though, it's really going to pick up the wind. So today's forecast, we are reaching the lower 70s. This is the warmest day that we have at least until next Monday. The storm potential only in the morning, and then it's just a windy and a sunnier day after that. Some of these wind gusts expected to be about 30 to 35 right around noon heading into the afternoon, and we're going to keep that breezy forecast through the overnight, still gusting to around 30 miles per hour for your Thursday as well. Tonight, we're going to see a big difference. Temperatures really starting to drop off. We'll eventually start to see a drop down into the 30s and beyond, and 30s through the weekend as well. So our Guy Roofing 7-day forecast showing that we are taking a little bit to warm up. We'll eventually be back into the lower 60s on Friday and Saturday, and then back to the mid 70s on Monday. If you're already missing the 80s that we had 3 days in a row, no worries. Next Tuesday, they're back in action. I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy. We'll continue to keep you updated on air and online.
Meanwhile, in Charlotte, CMPD is investigating 3 separate homicides that happened in less than 24 hours. The first happened late Thursday night on Bliffwood Lane by W.T. Harris Boulevard in Albemarle Road. CMPD says there was a confrontation outside a home leading to shots being fired. Then 30 minutes later, another shooting, this time on Glenwood Drive near the plaza. Police say Jabron Collins approached the car in a, quote, agitated state before he was shot. And yesterday afternoon, a 17-year-old Jack-in-the-Box employee was killed in Northwest Charlotte. Detectives say he was targeted after he got off work. And tonight, we're seeing local organizations put their best foot forward as they seek solutions to put an end to the growing violence in Charlotte. For one organization, their efforts center around the word connection. WCNC Charlotte's Miles Harris gives us a look at how the Alternatives to Violence program is working to connect with the community.
There's organizations right here in Charlotte that are trying to further connect with the community in efforts to putting an end to the violence.
The Queen City already seeing crime at an alarming rate in 2022.
Important to bring the community together.
But the Alternatives to Violence program focusing on connection with members to be enriched for success.
This gives us a public health approach to dealing with violence and the disparities that we face in these communities. And make sure that the individuals who have the highest need are connected to the resources that they need.
The weight and importance with each event growing with the uptick in violence. CMPD telling us that they're investigating at least 30 homicides this year alone in the first quarter, and at the same time last year, there were 24 homicides recorded. And in 2022, there were 19.
You have to be a presence in the community to let the people know that we're here, we love you, we care about you, we support you. Tell us what you need, and we'll try and make it happen for them.